The ship Terra's Hope moved slowly through the dark space toward the massive station. Han Kyung stood at the window and watched the alien structure grow larger. It was bigger than any human city. Strange lights blinked across its surface like metal stars. "We're almost there, Ambassador," said Park Nari from behind him. She was checking her datapad for the 100th time that day. "The docking request has been approved." Kyung nodded but did not turn around. 3 years of planning had led to this moment. 3 years of careful messages sent across the galaxy. 3 years of waiting for the Galactic Council to finally agree to meet with humanity. "Are you nervous?" Nari asked. "Yes," Kyung said honestly. "But that's good. It means this matters." The Council Station was home to the 7 most powerful alien species in the galaxy. They had ruled space for millions of years. They decided which young species could join their group and which ones had to stay on their home planets forever. Humanity was still new to space travel. Humans had only left Earth 200 years ago. Most alien species were much older. Some had been traveling between stars for longer than humans had existed. Kyung carried a heavy case with him. Inside were records of everything humanity had achieved. Art, music, science, philosophy. Stories of human courage and kindness. Proof that Earth's people deserved a place among the stars. "The docking tube is connecting now," announced the ship's pilot over the speakers. "Prepare for boarding procedures." Kyung picked up his case and walked to the airlock with Nari. She had studied alien cultures for 10 years. She spoke 17 different alien languages. If anyone could help him understand these creatures, it was her. The airlock opened with a soft hiss. Beyond it was a corridor that looked like it was made of living crystal. The walls pulsed with soft blue light. Strange music floated through the air. 2 aliens waited for them. One looked like a tall pile of rocks that somehow moved like a person. Its voice sounded like grinding stones when it spoke. "Human delegation, you are expected in Council Chamber 7. Follow the guide lights." The other alien was stranger. It looked like smoke in the shape of a person. When it spoke, its voice seemed to come from inside their heads. "Welcome to the Council Station. Your weapons have been detected and marked. They will not function here." Kyung had not brought any weapons, but he understood the message. The aliens were in control here. They walked through corridors filled with beings from across the galaxy. Some floated instead of walking. Others had too many arms or eyes or moved on wheels instead of legs. Nari whispered the names of different species as they passed. "Those are Melody," she said quietly, pointing to creatures that looked like jellyfish made of gas. "They live in the atmospheres of gas giants. And those metal ones are Nexari. They replaced most of their bodies with machines long ago." The council chamber was enormous. 7 high seats rose from the floor like thrones. Each was designed for a different type of alien body. Hundreds of smaller seats filled the rest of the space. Most were occupied by alien observers. Kyung felt very small as he walked to the center of the chamber. The case in his hand suddenly seemed light and worthless. The 7 council members took their places. The largest was clearly the leader. It looked like a mountain of living crystal with lights dancing inside it. When it spoke, the sound echoed through the chamber. "I am High Arbiter Zelthos of the Vorthak. You are the human called Han Kyung. State your purpose." Kyung stepped forward. "Honored council members, I come as a representative of humanity. We request membership in the Galactic Council. We wish to take our place among the stars as equals and friends." A sound like laughter came from several of the aliens. "It was not a friendly sound. Equals?" said another council member. This one looked like a giant insect made of metal and wires. "Your species has existed for less time than we take to think a single thought. What could you possibly offer us?" Kyung opened his case and activated a holographic projector. Images of Earth appeared in the air above him. Cities, forests, oceans, and people. Human art and music filled the chamber. "We offer diversity," Kyung said. "New ideas. Fresh perspectives. In our short time in space, we have already made discoveries that benefit other species. We have helped the Zarathi with their food crisis. We have shared medical knowledge with the Keln. We seek not to take, but to give." The images changed to show human achievements. Space stations, terraformed worlds, peaceful first contacts with other species. Kyung spoke about human values. Freedom, justice, the right of all thinking beings to choose their own path. But as he spoke, Kyung noticed the council members were not impressed. Some looked bored. Others seemed angry. The crystal being called Zelthos made a sound like breaking glass. "Your species is young and violent," Zelthos said. "Your history is filled with wars. You solve problems with force instead of patience. This is not the way of civilized beings. We have learned from our mistakes, Kyung replied. We have grown beyond our violent past. We seek peace with all species, have you? Asked the insect-like being. Our scouts report that your military ships patrol your borders. You build weapons instead of art. You expand aggressively into new systems. Nari stepped forward. Honored council, those are defensive measures. Humanity has never attacked a peaceful species. We explore new worlds to build homes, not empires. The council members spoke to each other in languages that sounded like singing crystals and electronic noise. Kyung could not understand the words, but the tone was clear. They were not pleased. After several minutes, Zelthos spoke again. The council will consider your request. You will remain on the station while we deliberate. You will not leave your assigned quarters without permission. Kyung felt his heart sink. This was not going as planned. How long will your deliberation take? As long as necessary, Zelthos replied. Guards will escort you to your quarters. This session is concluded. 2 alien guards appeared beside them. They were tall and covered in armor that looked alive. Without speaking, they gestured for Kyung and Nari to follow. As they left the chamber, Kyung heard one of the council members speak to another. Nari's face went pale as she translated quietly. He said humans are a threat that must be contained, she whispered. They're not considering membership at all. They're deciding what to do with us. Kyung kept walking, but his mind raced. 3 years of work, and they had walked into a trap. The council had never intended to accept humanity. They had brought them here for a different purpose entirely. In their quarters that night, Kyung activated his personal communicator and sent a coded message toward Earth. Just 3 words that would mean everything to those who received them. Protocol 7. Prepare. 3 days passed like a prison sentence. Kyung and Nari were kept in small rooms with no windows. Guards brought them strange alien food that tasted like metal and plastic. They were not allowed to speak to anyone except each other. On the 4th day, the guards came again. This time they carried energy weapons that hummed with deadly power. Han Kyung, you will come with us, the lead guard said. Its voice came through a translator that made every word sound cold and empty. Where are we going? Kyung asked, but the guards did not answer. Nari stood up quickly. I'm coming too. I'm his aide. Where he goes, I go. The guard pointed its weapon at her. You will remain here. Only the human called Kyung is required. Kyung put his hand on Nari's shoulder. It's okay. I'll be back soon. But as he said the words, he knew they were not true. Something in the guard's behavior told him this was not another meeting. This was something final. They walked through corridors he had not seen before. These halls were darker, with walls made of black metal. Other aliens moved through these passages, but they all stopped and stared as the human prisoner walked by. The guards brought him to a new chamber. This one was smaller than the council room, but more frightening. It was circular with a raised platform in the center. Above the platform hung a device that looked like a metal flower with spinning petals of light. The 7 council members were already there, sitting in their thrones around the edge of the room. High Arbiter Zelthos spoke first. Human Han Kyung, you have been found guilty of cultural contamination and aggressive thought projection. Kyung stared at the crystal being. I don't understand. What are these charges? I have done nothing wrong. Your very presence here is wrong, said the insect-like council member. Your species thinks too much about war. Your mind projects violent intentions even when you speak of peace. This contaminates the peaceful thoughts of civilized beings. That's impossible, Kyung said. Humans cannot project thoughts. We don't have that ability. All species can project thoughts, replied another council member that looked like a tree made of silver wires. Most learn to control this ability as they mature. Your species has not. You leak aggression and ambition like a broken container leaks poison. Kyung realized what was happening. These charges were made up. The council had already decided humanity's fate before he ever arrived. This trial was just a show. You're going to kill me, he said quietly. The sentence is neural disintegration, Zelthos announced. Your consciousness will be completely destroyed while your body remains intact. This body will be returned to your species as a message. Humanity will never leave its star system. Any attempt to do so will result in the complete destruction of your world. The guards forced Kyung onto the platform under the spinning device. Energy fields held him in place so he could not move. The metal flower above his head began to glow brighter. This is murder, Kyung said, looking directly at Zelthos. You call yourselves civilized, but you're just bullies with advanced technology. "We are the guardians of galactic peace," the crystal being replied. "We have maintained order for 3 million years. We will not allow a violent young species to disrupt that order." Kyung thought about Earth, about his wife and children who were waiting for him to come home, about all the humans who hoped to see the stars someday, about the future that was being stolen from them. He activated the neural implant hidden in his brain. It was military technology disguised to look like a medical device. For 3 days, it had been recording everything he saw and heard. Now it would transmit all of that data back to Earth in a quantum burst that would arrive instantly. "You want to know what makes humans dangerous?" Kyung asked as the device above him charged up. "It's not our violence. It's that we never give up. We never accept defeat, and we never forgive those who hurt our people." The neural disintegrator fired. Kyung felt his consciousness being torn apart piece by piece, but in his last moment he managed to send one final message along with the recorded data. "Remember what we are." The platform went dark. Kyung's body remained standing, but his eyes were empty. His mind was gone forever. Zeltos examined the body with sensors built into its crystal form. "The process is complete. Consciousness has been fully destroyed. Return the body to the human female. She will carry our message back to Earth." The guards brought Nari to the execution chamber. When she saw Kyung's empty body, she screamed and tried to run to him. The energy fields held her back. "Your companion attempted to contaminate our peaceful civilization," Zelthos told her. "This is the price of such contamination. You will return to your world and inform your leaders that humanity must remain within its own star system forever. Any expansion beyond your sun will result in the complete annihilation of your species. You monsters." Nari whispered through her tears. He was a good man. He only wanted peace. "Peace requires order," the insect-like being said. "Order requires that dangerous species be controlled. Your species will live, but only if it obeys our commands." They forced Nari to load Kyung's body onto the ship Terra's Hope. The autopilot was programmed to return directly to Earth. She was not allowed to change course or send any messages as the ship moved away from the council station. Nari sat beside Kyung's body and wept. But as the hours passed, her sadness turned to anger. She began to examine the data files that Kyung had left in the ship's computer. What she found made her blood run cold. Hidden in the diplomatic archives were records that Kyung had discovered during their 3 days of imprisonment. Records of other species that had tried to join the council. Records of executions and destroyed worlds. The Benthak had been a peaceful trading people. When they asked for council membership, their entire homeworld was sterilized with bioweapons. The survivors were told it was a plague. The Ylthari were explorers who had mapped half the galaxy. When they grew too successful, the council manufactured a civil war that destroyed their civilization. The Corvin were enslaved and forced to mine radioactive materials on dead worlds. Their rebellion was crushed by council forces, and the survivors were told they were being protected. For 3 million years, the Galactic Council had maintained peace by destroying anyone who might challenge their power. They were not guardians of civilization. They were its greatest enemy. Nari realized that Kyung had known this might happen. That's why he had sent that coded message on the first night. Protocol 7 was a human military code. It meant prepare for war. The ship's quantum communicator activated automatically as they neared the edge of council space. Kyung's neural implant had recorded everything, including the execution. All of that data was now streaming toward Earth at faster than light speed. By the time Nari reached home, humanity would know the truth about the Galactic Council. They would know that their ambassador had been murdered. They would know that Earth was marked for destruction if they dared to reach for the stars, and they would know that the Council feared what humanity might become. Nari looked at Kyung's empty face and made a promise. "They think we're violent? They haven't seen anything yet. We're going to show them what humans do to bullies." The ship flew on through the darkness, carrying its terrible cargo home. Behind them, the council station continued its ancient mission of spreading fear disguised as peace. But something had changed. For the first time in 3 million years, the council had made a mistake. They had shown mercy to a witness. They had let someone live to tell the story. That mistake would cost them everything. The ship Terra's Hope docked at Luna Station exactly 14 days after leaving the council station. Park Nari walked down the loading ramp carrying a sealed container. Inside was all that remained of Han Kyung, President Lee Dong-yun was waiting for her. His face was grim. Behind him stood the most powerful people in human space. Admiral Kim Ji-won, head of the Space Defense Force. Dr. Choi Min-ho from Advanced Weapons Research. General An Tae-hyung from Military Intelligence. The quantum burst arrived 2 hours ago, President Lee said quietly. We've seen everything. Nari set down the container and saluted. Mr. President, I have the honor to report that Ambassador Han Kyung died in service to humanity. He was murdered by the Galactic Council as a message to Earth. The message was received, Admiral Kim said. Her voice was cold as space. The question now is how we respond. They moved to a secure briefing room deep inside Luna Station. The walls were lined with screens showing star maps and military readiness reports. President Lee sealed the room and activated privacy shields. Show them, he said to Dr. Choi. The scientist touched a control panel. The room's lights dimmed and holographic displays filled the air. They showed weapons that looked like nothing humanity had ever built before. For the past 5 years, we've been preparing for this possibility, Dr. Choi explained. We suspected the Council might not be as peaceful as they claimed. So we built these. The first display showed a ship that seemed to flicker in and out of existence. Phase shift technology. Our ships can exist partially outside normal space-time. Enemy weapons pass right through us. The second display showed soldiers in armor that moved like liquid metal. Adaptive combat suits. They change shape and function based on battlefield conditions. One soldier wearing this can take on 100 traditional troops. The third display was the most impressive. It showed a device that looked like a glowing brain made of light. Consciousness transfer technology. We reverse engineered it from alien artifacts found on dead worlds. We can preserve human minds in quantum storage. Nari stared at the displays. You've been planning for war while Kyung was negotiating for peace? We hoped for peace, President Lee said. But we prepared for war. It's what humans do. General An stepped forward. There's something else. The quantum data from Kyung's neural implant included more than just his execution. It included his consciousness patterns. Every thought, every memory, right up to the moment of death. Dr. Choi nodded. We can bring him back. Not in flesh, but in digital form. His mind would exist in our most advanced computer systems. He could help us plan our response. Do it, Nari said immediately. He deserves the chance to see justice done. Admiral Kim activated another display. This one showed Earth's military forces. Ships, soldiers, weapons, and bases scattered across dozens of star systems. The Council thinks we're a young, weak species, she said. They're wrong. We've been quietly building our strength for 2 centuries. We have colonies in 47 systems. We have mining operations on 200 worlds. We have a military force of 12 million trained soldiers. More importantly, General An added, we have something the Council doesn't expect. We have allies. The display changed to show alien species that most humans had never heard of. The Corvin mining slaves. The scattered survivors of destroyed civilizations. The oppressed species that the Council controls through fear. They've been waiting for someone to lead a rebellion. President Lee stood at the head of the table. The Council gave us an ultimatum. Stay in our home system or be destroyed. I have a different proposal. He touched a control and the displays changed to show the Galactic Council's territory. Hundreds of star systems, thousands of worlds, millions of enslaved beings. We're going to free them all, the president said. Every slave, every oppressed species, every world under Council control. We're going to tear down their empire and build something better. That's impossible, Nari said. They have technology we don't understand. They've ruled the galaxy for 3 million years. They've ruled through fear, Dr. Choi replied. But fear only works if people believe the threat is real. We're going to show the galaxy that the Council can be beaten. Admiral Kim brought up tactical displays. We've identified 17 key Council facilities. Military bases, communication hubs, government centers. If we hit them all at once, we can cripple their ability to coordinate a response. The first strikes will be surgical, General An explained. Small teams using phase shift technology. We get in, destroy the target, and get out before they know what happened. And then, Nari asked, then we give every oppressed species in the galaxy the tools they need to free themselves, President Lee said. Weapons, ships, training, leadership. We turn the Council's empire into a battleground. Dr. Choi activated one more display. This one showed a timeline. The consciousness transfer of Kyung's mind will be complete in 6 hours. Our first strike teams deploy in 12 hours. The war begins in 18 hours. Nari looked around the room at these people who had been planning humanity's greatest battle, while she and Kyung were trying to make peace. Part of her was angry. Part of her was amazed. "Why didn't you tell us?" she asked. "Why let Kyung walk into a trap?" "Because he wasn't walking into a trap," Admiral Kim said. "He was gathering intelligence. Every second he spent on that station, his neural implant was recording council technology, security systems, and political structure. That data is worth more than 100 spy missions." He knew, President Lee added quietly. Not the details, but he knew the risks. He volunteered for this mission knowing he might not come home. He did it so the rest of humanity could be free. The president touched another control. The room filled with images of human colonies across dozens of worlds. Cities full of children who had been born among the stars. Explorers pushing deeper into unknown space. Scientists making discoveries that would benefit all thinking beings. "The council wants to put us in a cage," he said. "They want to lock humanity on one world while they control the rest of the galaxy. That's not going to happen." He looked directly at Nari. "You've seen what they do to species that challenge them. You've seen the records of destroyed civilizations. If we don't fight them now, we'll be next. And after us, they'll find some other young species to crush." Nari thought about Kyung's last words. "Remember what we are?" She finally understood what he meant. "We're the species that doesn't give up," she said. "Exactly," President Lee replied. "The Council has never faced an enemy like us. They've never fought a species that gets stronger when it's threatened, that fights harder when it's outnumbered, that refuses to surrender even when defeat seems certain." "What do you want me to do?" Nari asked. Admiral Kim smiled for the first time since the meeting began. "We want you to help us wake up Han Kyung. He's going to be our secret weapon. The Council thinks they destroyed him. They're about to learn that humans are very hard to kill." The briefing ended with humanity preparing for its greatest challenge. In 18 hours, they would begin a war against an empire that had ruled the galaxy since before humans learned to make fire. But they were not afraid. They were angry. And angry humans, as the galaxy was about to learn, were the most dangerous force in the universe. Captain Yoon Seojin checked her weapon one last time before the mission began. The phase rifle looked like ordinary human technology, but it could tear holes in reality itself. Around her, 11 other soldiers prepared their gear in the cramped transport ship. 2 minutes to phase shift, announced the pilot. Everyone ready? Seojin's team was the first. They would hit the Council monitoring station in the Rigel system, while 16 other teams struck targets across the galaxy. If everything went according to plan, the Council would lose their eyes and ears in one coordinated attack. "Remember the briefing," Seojin told her soldiers. "These aliens have never fought humans before. They don't know what we're capable of. Let's keep it that way until it's too late." The ship shimmered and suddenly they were somewhere else. The phase shift technology had moved them from normal space into a parallel dimension where matter was less solid. They could pass through walls and armor like ghosts. Ahead of them floated the Council station. It was a massive structure with thousands of aliens working inside. Sensors and weapons covered its surface like metal scales. In normal space, it would have been impossible to approach without being detected, but they were not in normal space. "Phase shift to 70%, Seojin ordered. "Prepare for insertion." The team began to solidify just enough to interact with matter. They could now touch things and be touched, but they were still mostly invisible to the station's sensors. One by one, they passed through the station's outer hull. The alien metal felt cold and strange as they moved through it. Inside, they found corridors filled with creatures they had never seen before. The Council species were there, but so were dozens of others. Slaves from conquered worlds, forced to maintain the station systems. Workers who had never known freedom. Guards who enforced the Council's will through fear. Split into 3 groups, Seojin whispered into her comm unit. "Alpha Team takes the control center. Beta Team hits the power core. Gamma Team destroys the communication array. We have 30 minutes before they figure out what's happening." Alpha Team moved through the station like deadly shadows. The adaptive armor they wore changed color and texture to match their surroundings. Their enhanced muscles let them move faster and jump higher than any alien expected. They reached the control center without being seen. Inside, 20 alien technicians monitored the entire Rigel system. They watched for unauthorized ships, illegal broadcasts, and signs of rebellion among the local populations. "Now," Seojin said, Alpha Team phase-shifted back to full solidity and attacked. The aliens never had a chance to call for help. Human weapons fired energy that disrupted alien nervous systems. The technicians collapsed without a sound. Seojin moved to the main control console and plugged in a data infiltrator designed by Dr. Choi's team. The device immediately began downloading every file in the station's computer systems. Patrol schedules, surveillance reports, military codes, and most importantly, locations of other council facilities. Alpha Team secure, she reported. Beginning data extraction. Beta Team in position, came another voice. Power core has some kind of alien shielding. Switching to antimatter charges. Gamma Team encountering resistance, reported a third voice. The communication array is heavily guarded. We need a distraction. Seojin looked at the control panel in front of her. With a few commands, she could trigger every alarm in the station. That would draw the guards away from the communication array, but it would also alert the council to the attack. Do it, she decided. All teams go loud. Mission priority is destruction of targets, not stealth. Alarms began screaming throughout the station. Emergency lights flashed red and blue. Automated voices spoke in alien languages calling for security teams and damage control. The guards rushed toward the control center, leaving the communication array lightly defended. Gamma Team struck immediately, using explosives that turned the massive transmitter into twisted metal. Beta Team detonated their antimatter charges in the power core. The explosion sent shockwaves through the entire station. Lights flickered and died. Gravity generators failed. Emergency power kicked in, but it was not enough to run all systems. Data extraction complete, Seojin announced. All teams prepare for extraction, but as they tried to leave, they found their exit blocked. The station's commander had figured out that the attackers were using some kind of phasing technology. He had activated energy fields that disrupted the phase shift process. We're trapped, reported Beta Team leader. The phase shift isn't working. Seojin smiled inside her helmet. The council commander was smart, but he was thinking like an alien. He assumed the humans would try to escape the same way they had entered. All teams conventional exit strategy, she ordered. Time to show these aliens what humans do when we're cornered. The 12 soldiers regrouped in the station's main corridor. Ahead of them waited 3,000 alien guards with weapons designed to stop conventional armies. Behind them were sealed blast doors that would take hours to cut through. Suggestions? Asked Beta Team leader. We go through them, Seojin said simply. The aliens opened fire with energy weapons that could melt steel. But human adaptive armor was designed to absorb and redirect energy attacks. The soldiers charged forward, their armor glowing as it converted incoming fire into power for their own weapons. What happened next became legend throughout the galaxy. 12 humans fought 3,000 aliens in the corridors of a space station and won. They moved like dancers, each soldier covering the others. Their weapons never missed. Their armor never failed. The aliens had superior numbers and defensive positions, but they had never faced an enemy that adapted during combat. Human soldiers analyzed alien tactics in real time and changed their approach every few seconds. They used the station's own structure against its defenders, turning corners into kill zones and corridors into traps. In less than an hour, the battle was over. The station was destroyed. The aliens were dead or had surrendered, and 12 humans walked away without a single casualty. But the real victory was not on the station. It was in the messages that were already spreading across the galaxy. Professor Nam Yoonji sat in a broadcast center on Earth, speaking into cameras that would transmit her words to every world in council space. Behind her stood Han Kyung's digital consciousness, somehow more alive in death than he had been before his execution. People of the galaxy, she said in perfect council standard language. For 3 million years you have been told that the Galactic Council protects you. You have been told that they maintain peace and order. Today we show you the truth. The broadcast showed recordings from Kyung's neural implant, the fake trial, the execution, the threats against humanity, the records of destroyed civilizations. The Council is not your protector, Kyung's digital voice added. They are your prison guards. They have kept you enslaved with fear and lies. But today, that ends. The broadcast reached the Corvan mining slaves first. They had been forced to work on radioactive worlds for 100,000 years. When they saw the truth about their oppressors, they picked up their mining tools and turned them into weapons. The rebellion began on 17 worlds simultaneously. Human weapons and equipment appeared as if by magic, delivered by phase-shift technology that the Council could not detect. The slaves had become soldiers overnight. Admiral Kim Ji-won watched the reports from her command center on Luna Station. Her strategy was working perfectly. The Council was trying to respond to dozens of crises at once, but they had never faced this kind of distributed warfare. Phase Team Alpha reports successful extraction from Rigel, an aide announced. All 17 primary targets have been destroyed or captured. Excellent, Kim replied. Begin Phase 2. It's time to give our new allies some bigger toys to play with. Across the galaxy, human supply ships began appearing in rebel systems. They carried weapons that could destroy Council warships, armor that could protect rebel fighters, communication equipment that could coordinate resistance movements across hundreds of worlds. But most importantly, they carried hope. For the first time in 3 million years, the oppressed species of the galaxy believed they could win. The digital consciousness of Han Kyung coordinated it all. His diplomatic knowledge, combined with unlimited processing power, let him predict how different species would react to the rebellion. He knew which worlds were ready to fight and which needed more time. He knew how to turn the Council's own bureaucracy against them. The Council is calling for reinforcements from their home worlds, he reported. To Admiral Kim, they're pulling troops from garrison duty to fight the rebels. Perfect, Kim replied. That means their core systems are becoming vulnerable. Time for Phase 3. General An Tae-hyung stepped forward. Strike teams are ready. We've identified the Council's most important worlds. If we can take them, we can end this war before it really begins. Kim nodded. Do it. Show the galaxy that the Council is not invincible. The war was just beginning, but already the balance of power was shifting. The Council had ruled through fear for millions of years. Now they were the ones who were afraid, and they had good reason to be. They had awakened something that had been sleeping in the dark corners of space. They had challenged a species that grew stronger when threatened. They had started a war with humanity. 2 years after the first human attack, the galaxy was burning with rebellion. The Galactic Council's empire was collapsing faster than they could respond to it. On the ancient world of Zentara Prime, High Arbiter Zelthos stared at reports of the latest defeats. The Nexari want to negotiate, announced one of his remaining advisors. They say the war is unwinnable. Zelthos made a sound like breaking crystal. The Nexari are cowards. We have ruled for 3 million years. We will not surrender to these primitive humans. But even as he spoke, Zelthos knew the truth. The humans had done something impossible. They had turned the galaxy's oppressed populations into an army. They had given slaves the power to fight their masters. They had proven that the Council could be beaten. On Earth, President Lee Dong-hyun received a message from the Nexari Council. They wanted to discuss terms for a separate peace. They offered to withdraw from Council territory and recognize human authority over their former slaves. Should we accept? Asked Admiral Kim Ji-won. Lee looked at the holographic display showing the galaxy-wide war. Millions of beings were fighting for their freedom. Thousands were dying every day. A quick peace would save lives. No, he said firmly. We didn't start this war to make deals with half the oppressors. We started it to free everyone. In the digital realm of Earth's most advanced computers, Han Kyung's consciousness agreed. The Nexari enabled the Council's crimes for millions of years. They don't get to walk away just because they're losing. The final push began on 50 worlds simultaneously. General An Tae-hyung led the combined human-alien liberation force towards Zentara Prime. The planet was protected by reality-warping defenses that could turn space itself into a weapon. Conventional attack is impossible, reported Captain Yoon Seojin from her flagship. Their defenses are bending the laws of physics. Our ships can't even approach the planet. An studied the tactical displays. Then we don't use ships. We use what makes us human. The solution came from an unexpected source. The Corvin rebels had discovered something during their mining operations. Deep in the radioactive worlds where they had been enslaved, they found ancient artifacts, technology that predated the Council by millions of years. The original builders of this galaxy were not like the Council, explained a Corvin engineer through a translator. They believed in freedom. Their machines respond to beings who fight for justice. The artifacts were weapons of incredible power, but they only worked for those who truly believed in liberation. The Council species could not use them because their minds were focused on control and domination. But humans could use them. And so could every slave who had chosen to fight for freedom. The final battle began not with ships and energy weapons, but with the power of conviction itself. The ancient artifacts allowed the Liberation Force to ignore Zentara Prime's reality-warping defenses. They landed on the planet's surface and fought their way through armies of council troops. General An led from the front, using weapons that responded to his determination to free the galaxy's oppressed peoples. Beside him fought Corvin miners, Melody atmospheric dwellers, and dozens of other species that had found their courage. The digital consciousness of Han Kyung coordinated the battle from orbit, his vast processing power directing forces across the entire planet. He had become something more than human, but he had never forgotten what he was fighting for. "The Council's central command is in the Crystal City," he reported, "but be careful. Zeltos has activated some kind of doomsday weapon. If he can't rule the galaxy, he's planning to destroy it." The doomsday weapon was a device that could unravel the fabric of spacetime itself. It would not just destroy planets or star systems. It would unmake reality across the entire galaxy, leaving nothing but empty void. "How long do we have?" An asked as his forces fought through the Crystal City's defenses. 6 hours, Kyung replied. "Maybe less. The weapon is drawing power from the planet's core. Once it reaches critical mass, nothing can stop it." The Liberation Forces fought harder than they ever had before. They were not just fighting for freedom anymore. They were fighting for existence itself. Every minute counted. Every step forward mattered. Captain Seojin led her Special Forces team directly to the weapons control center. They fought through automated defenses and council guards who preferred to die rather than surrender. The crystal corridors ran red with alien blood. "I've reached the control room," she reported, "but I can't understand these controls. Everything is in ancient council script." "I can help," came an unexpected voice. It was a Vorthak technician, one of Zeltos' own people. "I will not let him destroy the galaxy to preserve his power." The technician's name was Quelthar, and he had served the council for 2,000 years. But he had seen the broadcasts about their crimes. He had learned the truth about the species they had destroyed. He could not serve such evil any longer. "The shutdown sequence requires 3 separate keys," Quelthar explained as energy weapons fired around them. "I have one. The human called Kyung has access to another through the station's systems. But the third is with Zeltos himself." General An was already fighting his way toward the High Arbiter's throne room. The ancient being had surrounded himself with the most powerful guards in council space. They wielded weapons that could reshape matter and energy at will. But An carried something they could not defeat. He carried the hope of every slave who had ever dreamed of freedom. The ancient artifacts responded to that hope, making him stronger and faster than any alien warrior. The battle between An and Zeltos was not just physical. It was a contest between 2 philosophies. The crystal being represented 3 million years of oppression disguised as order. The human represented the idea that freedom was worth any sacrifice. "You cannot win," Zeltos said as they fought among the ruins of his throne room. "Order must be maintained. The strong must rule the weak. That is the natural way." "Maybe for you," An replied, dodging energy blasts that could have destroyed mountains. "But humans learned a long time ago that the natural way isn't always the right way. We choose to be better." The final moment came when An managed to pin the alien ruler long enough to take the third key. As the doomsday weapon powered down, Zeltos made one last desperate attack, but he was too late. The weapon was dead. The Council's power was broken. And across the galaxy, slaves were becoming free. The war ended not with a great battle, but with a choice. The remaining Council forces could continue fighting a hopeless war, or they could accept the new reality. Most chose to surrender. President Lee addressed the galaxy from the ruins of Zentara Prime. Behind him stood representatives of every liberated species. Humans, Corvin, Melody, and even some Vorthak who had turned against their own rulers. "Today, we establish the Free Worlds Alliance," he announced. "Membership is voluntary. Leadership is elected. No species will ever again rule over another through force or fear." Parknari, now serving as Earth's first galactic coordinator, worked with the digital consciousness of Han Kyung to write the new laws. They created protections for young species, limits on military power, and courts where justice would be decided by representatives of all member worlds. "What about the Council species?" asked a Corvin delegate. Do we punish them for their crimes? It was Han Kyung's consciousness that answered. We give them the same choice we give everyone else. They can join the Alliance as equals, or they can remain isolated on their homeworlds, but they will never again have power over others. Some of the former council members chose integration. They worked to make amends for their species' crimes. Others retreated to their home systems and were never heard from again. The Nexari, true to their nature, adapted quickly to the new order. They became engineers and technicians for the Alliance, using their abilities to build rather than control. The Melody established beautiful cities in the atmospheres of gas giants, open to visitors from all species who wanted to experience their unique culture. Even some Vorthak chose to join the Alliance. They used their long lifespans to become historians and teachers, ensuring that the lessons of the past would never be forgotten. 50 years later, children of dozens of species learned in school about the human liberation. They learned about Han Kyung, the diplomat whose death sparked the greatest revolution in galactic history. They learned about the courage of slaves who chose to fight for freedom. They learned about the importance of standing up to bullies, no matter how powerful they seemed. And in the quantum depths of humanity's most advanced computers, Kyung's consciousness continued to serve. He had become something beyond human, but he had never forgotten his humanity. He watched over the Alliance, ensuring that freedom would never again be surrendered to fear. The galaxy was at peace, but it was a different kind of peace than the Council had enforced. It was peace based on choice rather than coercion, peace based on justice rather than submission, peace that grew stronger when challenged rather than breaking under pressure. It was human peace, and it would endure. President Lee, now an old man, stood on the observation deck of New Terra Station and looked out at the stars. Ships from 100 different worlds moved through space in perfect harmony. Trade flowed freely. Knowledge was shared openly. Young species were welcomed and protected rather than enslaved or destroyed.